Hosts, Pastor Kent Smith, Pastor Trent Smith, Kayla Smith, and Alex Shirley. Thank you so much for joining us as we dive into a new episode.
But pursuing the call of God, what does an opportunity look like? Something you taught me is so good that if I cultivate my gift, if I cultivate the calling that God has given me, there will be no shortage of opportunities.
Well,
but the flip side is we can't be opportunity surfers either.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yesterday I told you because you have been given another opportunity, and I just in a text message, it looks like your gift is bringing you before yet more great men, and sometimes in this process of developing the call, if there's a call, you develop the calling, and then the gifts that God gives you, you develop the giftings. It just never stops. You have to constantly grow. And I think when you're given an opportunity, when I see you performing, or when I see someone operating at a level of gifting, I understand and know that long before they're in this public venue doing this, they were doing it in the private venue. And that gifting will bring you before great men. Let me put it this way. If someone wants to be a preacher, and nobody wants them to preach, then let's evaluate this. Why aren't you receiving an invitation? Why aren't you being called to do something? I mean, on the phone to do something. And so if there's not something in there that's bringing you before great men, integrity would have to say, if I've developed myself, I understand this is going to happen, but what do I need to develop further in me that will bring my gift before great men? And a lot of times it goes back to the basics of developing your spiritual life, and then developing your availability life. And then when a call is given, let me tell you experience. Right before we got married, I thought that I was a full-time evangelist. I am the worst evangelist in the history of the universe. I gladly say that. If you want to know the worst preacher in Pentecostal starter, that is me. I hold that proudly. But I was living.
I will agree with you.
I was staying in an apartment in a church in Pasadena, Texas, and a phone call came into me, and a fellow asked me to come to another state and preach 2-week revival. But I was so unprepared for it, I couldn't even say yes. Okay. And so I said, let me call you back in an hour. And I went to talk to the pastor. I thought I was doing a great thing talking to the pastor. But I went back, called the guy. He says, I got somebody else to do it in an hour. So I let an opportunity pass because I wasn't ready. Now, it's probably a God moment. It really was probably a God thing. But you've got to be willing to step through the doors of opportunity that open. And likewise, you need to be very careful about the doors of opportunity that you force open. Because I've endeavored to force a few doors. And the doors in life that I have forced have proven to bring me great pain. But the doors that God opened were extreme blessing in my life.
The doors that we force open, we have to force open for a reason. And if we force it open, we become the wedge that keeps it open. And ministry has enough pressure by itself to where it can make us crumble. It's hard enough as it is, much less when we're forcing an opportunity. It's only going to add more pressure. It's like trying to force your foot in a shoe that's not your size. If it's too big, you're going to walk around and you're going to trip, you're going to flop around, you're going to get blisters. If it's too small, you're going to have a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort in your life. So many times we force things, we force opportunities. Sometimes we make our own opportunities, and that's a scary place. So we can get caught up in the calling and are always looking for the big opportunity that we miss out on what we perceive as small opportunities. Despise not the day of small beginnings, is what Scripture says. And it's not all lights, camera, and action. It's not all podcast studios. This is the fun part of our week, but it's not the most important.
It looks good.
But
it looks good, but it's not important.
I would carry this a step further in that I don't know how many times on this podcast and in other tables that I sit around, I am compelled in the day that we live in with the things that we see going on. I am compelled when we talk about callings, developing ourselves, maintaining ourselves. Last night in our Bible study, once again, I stood there and I pledged to Conroe Church. I'm nearing the golden era of a good ministry, of a career. But once again, I pledged again to Conroe Church. Integrity, purity, because we never arrive. And if there's any word of caution and warning that I would say to a young person that's developing a call, is never allow pride to be a part of your resume. Never allow pride, because whenever pride is invited into your calling or your gifting, there is no way you can succeed when there is pride involved, because inevitably pride walks before destruction. Mm-hmm. A haughty spirit walks before a fall. And if we allow pride or arrogance or haughtiness in any way, we will self-destruct. It is not the devil that causes the destruction. It is not other people that cause that destruction. God will not put more on you than you're able to bear. And when he brings that temptation, there's an escape hatch.
There's always. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're walking through life and the devil's given way too much credit for ministry mishaps, when in reality it's flesh that's out of control.
It's deflection, yeah.
So I wanna say, if you're pursuing a calling, if there's any single thing that you develop, is you develop a high degree of personal integrity. You develop a code that a code of integrity that supersedes any list of rules that could be presented to you. And who was it that said, I made a covenant with my eyes that I wouldn't look upon a maid? You develop a personal integrity that is stronger than any moment of temptation, because it is not the temptation that's the issue. When we sin, it's not because the devil pushed us, but when we sin, it's because we're drawn of our own lust. We cannot blame any of our spiritual shortcomings or failures upon spiritual things. It's our flesh. And so if there's anything you've got to develop as a person who desires a call, who is developing a call, who is living within a call, and is even in a position of recognizing the call of others, whatever stage you're in, you've got to have a deep, deep integrity that comes from a relationship with Jesus Christ and commitments to yourself that I don't do some things.
That's good. All right, let's circle back to the pursuit of the call. That's so good, Dad. And that's the spiritual application that I think we need. I think we're seeing right now in Christianity as a whole. that there has been a lack of integrity. I mean, in my news feed on Instagram, there's ads from lawyers saying that if a minister from this denomination has acted in a way that is inappropriate towards you or someone you know, give us a call. It's not. This is a massive thing. This is bigger than the Catholic Church. This is a big deal, and it's not just sexual either. It's money. It's all kinds of things.
Is this a good moment to plug my book?
Do unto brothers.
This is a good moment to plug it because I've just
yes.
written.
Okay. So, but I'm trying to transition to the practical. So there's all these things, and you've just hit on the integrity. But what does it practically look like to understand an opportunity? I think an opportunity looks like if you're walking into the church on a Sunday morning and there's trash in the parking lot, there's your opportunity. If you're walking past someone who's sitting by themselves and you don't recognize them, there's your opportunity. Speak to them, get to know them. The opportunity looks like it's different for all of us. It's different for all of us every week. There's an opportunity for us to minister and to serve people. Just because, well, I'm doing this Sunday and this is undone, that's not my responsibility. No, it's all of our responsibility.
Let me share a Sunday morning opportunity.
Yes.
What an opportunity looks like.
Practical.
Okay. Normally, when we close a service on Sunday, there will always be people who move towards the front who want to speak with me about something as pastor. I have a goal, and that is literally I kind of bound off the stage, and I try to weave my way. I'm trying to be the first person to the front door. It's a long way. I'm trying to be there because there are people that are sitting towards the back that are not going to stay long. And I get one chance to shake their hand and hope they come back. And so if you want a ministry opportunity and you want to be available to the kingdom, wherever you're sitting in a sanctuary, if you want to be a helper to your pastor, beat him to the front door and engage these new people and give them time, give the others time to get there and to just shake their hand. That's huge.
So good.
That is huge because you get when I catch someone in the park, and I still do this after all of these years, I'll holler in a parking lot, "Hey, glad to see y'all," and they'll stop, and then I make a connection that I couldn't have made at any other point, and I laugh and say, "Oh, I'm sorry to yell at you, but I have a parking lot ministry," but in all reality, that is an opportunity, and it's available to anyone. And if someone desires, Paul said, if you desire the office of a bishop or of a minister or servant leader, you desire a good thing. It's noble to desire ministry. But it goes on to say you must first, and there are some things you've got to do. And I think that being the hands and feet or being an extension of those that you are serving under makes you absolutely invaluable.
That's good.
And another thing is I've watched in life the people who are willing to spend a lot of time helping someone else achieve their dream. One day, others are going to help them achieve theirs.
Joseph.
Absolutely. And so if an opportunity, be the helper, be the hands, be the feet, be the right-hand person, be the one that we had a family here that came and served for 10 years. And shout out to the Fergies. They came and served for 10 years, every Sunday for 10 years. He's into my office before church time. You got a minute, Pastor? And I tell him this. I got to where I dreaded that because I'm focused on one thing, and Fergie would just say, "What can I do?" Or, "I know God's called me to something else, and I just want to get there." And it became something. And he laughed. He said, "I drove you crazy." I said, "Yeah, you did." But they did that for 10 years, and they left Conroe Church 12 years ago and pastored and found success. But last week they met a district board, and I've received phone calls from people on that district board that say, "We're not certain what all happened with that guy, but there's something powerful in that family." And they spent 10 years just being available,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anybody has to spend 10 years.
We still miss the Fergusons around here.
Absolutely.
Chris and Misty, we're happy for y'all, but we still, there's a hole here that it's been filled, but we still have a need of for y'all.
We have a Fergie-sized space in our
Yeah,
hearts
yeah.
that's not there. And so I think that how to understand a call, walk through a door, you step through that door and you serve hard. You serve passionately. You serve when it's not fun. You serve when it's not, it's not really desirable.
Chris, when he preached for us a couple of weeks ago, and I love what he said, and he made mention to their time here. He managed Baskin's Western Wear that was bought out by Boot Barn, very successful store, just not far from our church. And he said that I had to learn that ministry wasn't always in the church. Ministry was when I was selling boots and jeans and hats. And he talked about how he would pray for people and how he would get to know people and love people. Not only was he building his business, but through that career opportunity that was good, God built a ministry. And sometimes pursuing ministry is not pursuing the pulpit, going back to that. It's pursuing the things that God loves, and that's people. And if we can value people, it all is going to work out. If we can love people. Brother Huntley told me this. I think I told you this. Alex, this is so good. Sunday morning, we're walking out into the service, and he stops me. He says, "Hey, Bubba." I don't know why Southern people call the guys Bubba, but because your jokes.
Love you, Bubba.
I was Bubba Sunday morning to Brother Huntley. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, you don't need to be interesting to people. If you're interesting to people, you're always going to have to work hard to be interesting, and you're going to get full of pride, and people's going to pick up on that. People don't want an interesting pastor. They want an interested pastor. They want a pastor who's not trying to get people interested in them because they're interesting. They want a pastor who's interested in them, the congregation. And Chris and Misty were so good at that. That is a poster child for finding a ministry and God elevating you. Yeah. Because for years here, they were over first impressions. They were over usher and hostess, which sometimes it just seems like a menial task, trivial. But it's so important. And through that, they served faithfully. They served with excellence. And God gave them a love for people. And to this day, they can walk in Conroe Church, and the people who are here that know them are going to flock to them. We saw it the other night after Chris was done preaching. He didn't even get past the first row, and there was people crowded around. He was like a celebrity. Not because he's a great preacher, and he is a good preacher. He flowed in the Holy Ghost, and it was a powerful, long season of prayer. Not because of that, but because he can look you in the eye and find value in you. There's something, we've talked a lot about spiritual things here, but sometimes you just got to hang out with people and be their buddy and be their friend.
One Sunday morning, Brother Chris was always recruiting people to help him.
Always.
You never knew what was going to happen.
Love it.
And one Sunday when the offering was being taken, the usher that had been recruited wasn't a fully developed Christian. Okay.
Those are the best ushers.
And when he showed up to where I was, bring the bag by me, this guy had his sleeves rolled up, and he wasn't dressed like an usher. Okay, dressed like an old cowboy kind of guy.
That's the best usher.
And when he walked up to me, his shirt was unbuttoned like 3 buttons.
Best usher.
And he had a pack of Marlboros sticking out of his pocket.
Best usher.
And so that was the Sunday the Marlboro man received the offering at Conroe Church.
That's so good. But that happened because people made up in their mind, not only am I going to serve God, but my opportunity of the pursuit of the things of God is serving the people of God.
Absolutely.
And whenever you serve people, God's favor rains down on you. Hey, we've talked now. This is 2 episodes in one. We're an hour and 2 minutes in.
Well, hang on a second.
Yes,
Jesus
sir.
said, if you want to be first,
Yep, that's good. Gotta be
become last.
Yep.
You go to the wedding feast, take the low seat. And if the high seat's intended, they're going to invite you. But don't presume to take the high seat, because it's embarrassing if the leader of the feast decides, can you step with me this way for just a moment? This isn't your chair today. So don't be presumptuous that you deserve the high seat. There's always room with the low seat. And you don't stay at the low seat long if you do it good.
So good.
They invite you up.
So good. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode where we talked about the call to ministry and pursuing that. We hope you enjoy this, and we will see you again soon.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to Hope for the Soul podcast. Before you go, like and comment. We want to know what you're getting out of the podcast. Leave us a review. Subscribe. We do not want you to miss a thing. And lastly, share us with a friend you think needs to hear this. Our goal is to deliver content that will give hope. Regardless of what is going on in the world, we believe that Jesus is the ultimate solution to every problem.